With a weak tug, the stallion helped the chief onto his hooves, and they slowly made their way down to the block. When they arrived, Silver Star reached for his pocket 4 times before a hoof finally landed inside of it, pulling out the keys. After jamming the lock several times, grunting in increased frustration, he finally connected and unlocked the door, getting his friend inside and doing the main area right onto the next office. On the far side of the room was a large blue couch where ponies would wait before being summoned for questioning or making statements. Right now, to Thunderhooves, it was the most wonderful couch in the world, even if he may have been a little big for it. They walked clumsily to the sofa, and the bison sat down gently as his girth and level of intoxication would allow. Somehow the couch didn't collapse. "I'm gonna turn in my office right over there," Silver Star said, nodding backwards and almost toppling over. "So if you need anything, just let me know. I don't think I'd make it home right now." "Thanks, Sheriff. I'll see you in the morning." "Night!" Thunderhooves plopped his head down on the couch's wonderful, soft arm and almost immediately passed out. Silver Star's door shut behind him, and he hobbled over to his desk, kicking his hooves up and closing his eyes. The soft crunching sound, like that of paper being crumbled, spoke out from under his hooves, but Silver Star was too groggy to notice. It wasn't long before he was quietly snoring as well. Chief Thunderhooves stood before his tribe's ceremonial fire, stomping the dirt in a rhythmic fashion. 4 other buffalo were each banging on a small drum, mimicking the chief's steps. The rest of his clan followed suit for a few moments before the music and hoof steps stopped in sync. Silver Star stood on the opposite side of the campfire, his head held up proudly. Thunderhooves was making him an honorary member of their tribe, and he couldn't be happier. He was to be the first of the Appaloosans, and any other who wished to follow suit were more than welcome. They'd become almost like a family after they settled their differences and became an honorary member of the highest honor an outsider could be given, according to their ancient customs. "Silver Star," the chief began, "we once didn't see eye to eye with your apple orchard and our stampeding grounds. We had threatened to destroy your way of life instead of trying to compromise. Looking back, I can see how horrible it would have been if such a thing had come to pass. But now, we stand together as friends, and if you will accept our humble gift, we wish for you to stand together with us as a family." In his hooves was a headdress with numerous large feathers of whites and faint blues with red tips. Happily, Chief Thunderhooves offered it to his pony companion, fully expecting for the ceremony to end on a high note. "No," he said with an unusually high voice. Shock hit the herd like a train. "I'm sorry?" "After how much you didn't want to listen to me and went ahead and did what I suggested anyway, without so much as an apology. No, thanks, sir." "Sheriff, I don't understand. Why would you say no? And what's with your voice?"
"Never mind you that. Why don't you ask your family what they think?"
the fake sheriff said, pointing at the others.
"Can't believe you side with them. A real chief fights for their tribe. It's our land first."
"Why
"Would you be okay with me and Brayburn being together?"
Little Strongheart asked.
"Are you trying to thin out our herd so much we eventually disappear? Why not just wait for them to come and invade and kill us all?"
One by one, they turned their back on their leader, including the young calf, and walked away, fading into nothingness after a few steps. Thunderhooves could only watch in helpless confusion as he was abandoned by his companions. He tried to call out to them, reason with them, but no words came from his mouth. After a moment, he was alone. He spun around to plead with Silver Star, but suddenly found himself in the middle of an empty Appaloosa. A dry gust carried dirt into the air, spinning it around in a small vortex before floating away. The bright sun beat on the back of his neck as he began to sweat. "Hello?" His voice echoed. No answer. After another quick burst of wind passed by, he heard the saloon doors flopping open behind him. He turned and saw a shadow disappear into the building. Desperate to find help, he sprinted into the tavern and threw the swinging doors open only to find it empty, save for the bartender, who hopped up from behind the counter. It was a pink mare, with a straight mane and a rather unusual smile. In her mane was a frilly purple feather, and she wore a matching purple dress with a black halter top and stockings. Her stare crept to the right and met his eyes, causing him to shrink back uncomfortably.
"Howdy there, Chiefy," Pinkie Pie said with a bad accent. "Can I interest you in sharing a delicious Appaloosa baked apple pie? Perfect for celebrating today."
But, I don't see any pony around. What's going on?
Hey now, no reason that the two of us can't celebrate, is there?
Well, I suppose not. The buffalo cautiously approached the bar and sat down, never taking his eyes off the unmoving gaze. Something about the familiar pink pony was unsettling to the last. Do I know you? I feel like we've met before, and I just can't place your face.
Of course we have. I sang for you, remember?
It suddenly hit him, and he felt his stomach drop. How could he have forgotten that mess? Oh, yes, now I remember. That was, such a delightful tune. And it is such a wonderful message. Yes, you were absolutely right. Sharing and caring was definitely the way to go. Thunderhoof shuddered, putting on an unconvincing smile. Pinkie didn't bat an eye at the obvious attempt at a fake compliment.
So nice of you to say. Now let's dig into that pie.
She reached below and fished out a fresh, piping hot piece of heaven. The chief's nervousness was quickly forgotten at the sight of the delectable, wonderful-smelling treat. A second later, his fear returned when Pinkie pulled out a knife, still smiling widely and staring right at him. The blade came down hard in the center of the dessert and carved it carefully. A quarter of the pie was sliced into 2 equal parts, one for each of them. They both took a piece, Thunderhooves keeping one eye on the pie and the other on his bizarre host. Pinkie's smile grew wider, and she swallowed the slice in a single gulp, half of it getting all over the counter. Now a bit less nervous, the large buffalo took a few cautious bites. Slowly, a grin crept across his face. It certainly was delicious. Maybe he was worried about nothing. He continued to enjoy his pastry when suddenly his throat felt like it was on fire. No, worse. This wasn't just a sudden, unusual spiciness that one wouldn't get from a pie. It was utterly excruciating. He tried to scream, but nothing but pained wheezes came from his mouth.
"Oh gosh, are you okay?" Pinkie gasped. "Quick, have some water."
She ducked down behind the counter and instantly returned with a glass and a jug of clear liquid. She poured a tall one, and the chief snatched it away, guzzling it down. That only made the burning worse. He clawed at his neck, desperately trying to make the agony go away. Chief Thunderhooves laid on the couch, clenching his throat and shrieking loudly. He rolled and tumbled to the floor with a loud thud, landing on his stomach. The horrific noises snapping the still tipsy Silver Star awake, almost throwing him off his chair and onto the floor himself. He stumbled off his makeshift bed and out to the office in a panic. His head almost instantly started throbbing thanks to the sudden, jerky motions. Wincing through a single open eye, he watched as Thunderhooves fought against nothing, utterly baffled at the situation. "Chief! What's going on?" he shouted. He received no response besides more screaming. He wobbled towards the buffalo and tripped over his own hooves, slamming the side of his head onto the desk next to his friend and crashing hard to the floor. Ugh! A tiny river of blood trickled out from under the unconscious stallion's skull. The scent of flesh and fur being burned away filled the chief's nostrils. It made him sick to his stomach. A hoof found a hole in his neck that was slowly growing in size, and a slow, steady drip of blood flowed from the wound down to his chest. His eyes darted around, searching as he wondered what in the world was happening to him.
"Why isn't the water helping?" Pinkie pondered. "It's the same stuff I used when I baked that pie."
She turned the jug and faced a large white label that said water, eyeing it suspiciously. A second later, one of the corners peeled away to reveal another label hidden underneath.
Huh?
The pink mare grabbed the false label and pulled it completely off, revealing the jug to be filled with
Strychnine. Oh, it all makes sense now. Wait a second.
She poked her own neck and found a similar gaping hole. Waiting to see for herself, she raised a small hoof-held mirror out of nowhere and gazed curiously at the wound, jiggling at the sight.
Well, it doesn't do a thing for me, so let's get rid of that.
With a quick swing of her hoof in front of her throat, the maw disappeared, leaving her skin good as new. Tossing the mirror away, she trotted with purpose around the bar and stood before Thunderhooves. He reached for Pinky's hooves, pleading with watering eyes for her to stop or even help. She was a statue before him with a hideous, menacing grin.
You know, Chiefy, she said, I do care, believe it or not. Normally, one might see you laying there and give you a hoof, maybe take you to a hospital or something, which would only prolong your suffering. Me?
She whipped out a tomahawk from behind her body.
I'm just going to make it quick, because I care.
The psychopathic pony hopped up beside him, grabbing the fur on his head and pulling back hard. In a single fluid motion, she dug the sharp stone blade of the axe into his forehead and ripped it across his scalp and neck. As the skin was suddenly torn off his skull, he sharply gasped, and his body began to twitch. After a moment, his muscles went limp and he slumped over. The next morning was gloomy, with a thick layer of gray clouds hiding the bright sun. Under several balconies along the road, buffalo and pony alike were found laid out, fast asleep or just starting to rise. Seems that some had partied harder than others that night before and were probably going to be paying for it once some beams of sunlight peeked through. A dark green stallion with a blonde coat and a 10-gallon hat sauntered towards the sheriff's office. His cutie mark was that of a small, rusted-colored twister. Deputy Dusty was as awake as the others in town, and it showed. Fortunately, his fatigue wasn't due to an excessive amount of alcohol. But he still needed to get today's laws and order going. Even in quiet towns such as Appaloosa, you couldn't be too careful, especially with reports of an escaped mad pony possibly running loose through Equestria somewhere. He tested the doorknob when he arrived. Locked. No big deal, though. He did have a key. In a single try, he popped the door open and headed inside. He hung his hat on the rack up to the left and headed into the main office, ready to begin going over some papers or sending out some letters or whatever else needed to be done. He stepped through the doorway and found Silver Star laying in a small puddle of dried blood on the floor. His eyes began to twitch when a beam of light came through the window and warmed his face. Beside him, in front of the couch, Chief Thunderhooves was sprawled out. The top of his head had been torn off and tossed onto the carpet on which he laid. His exposed skull had blood all over his face onto the floor. The deputy's pulse began to race at the grotesque sight.
What in tarnation?